some time. You guys have had a chance to, I will not go through the formal introductions of all of our advisory board members because that'll eat up almost the entire allocation of one of the teams. We're doing something different this year. We've asked, and this was feedback from some of the students, each of you guys will have a feedback form, or should be getting the same feedback form that the advisory board members have, and you're being asked to fill one out for each team, just like the advisory board members are. So that the team, and then what we're going to be doing is getting you all of those feedback forms back. If you want, as a student, you could put your name, or you could leave it anonymous. It's your call. That your original form will be given to that team. So, but we thought it would be important to get student perspective as well as AB perspective to that. So the general format is 10 minutes of presentation, and then 10 minutes of Q&A. We're going to go through our first 4 teams, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back for our second 4 teams.
Don't call it Q&A.
What?
Call it Q or C.
Q and C.
Questions or comments.
Questions or comments.
And students are not allowed to make any answers.
So yes, to Ben's point, because of our time constraints, we're going to have in our AB, we're going to get them to make comments to you. We're going to ask you guys to just accept the comments versus try to engage in debate, because we will never get through all the comments of our group today. It's most important to get their feedback. So any questions before we embark? Well, our first team is holding questions until the presentation's over. Until the student presentation is over. And then I will, everyone, board members can just raise their hands and I will help intermediate if I need to. So without further ado, we have our e-commerce 1 team, Decorial. You guys are.
Hi, I'm Richard.
And I'm Eleanor, and along with 6 other members of our team, as he said, we are e-commerce 1, Decorial. So before I jump in, although 10 weeks ago when we first put pen to paper, I would not have imagined the product that we're going to show you, our underlying problem and user frustration and pain has remained the same: white walls. So we all know what the ideal home should look like. Each day we're flooded with images of the media, from our favorite TV show to catalogs to editorials showing us what our homes should look like. Beautiful, aspirational images that are deceivingly inaccessible. Then we look at our own apartments, we look around, and we realize the reality of the disconnect. Our homes look this way instead, but why? We realize the disconnect in the reality between what we want, and what we feel like we should be able to achieve, and what we have. We have a problem, and we represents the millions of Americans that also experience the same thing. The millions of individuals who value self-expression and our unique life journeys. One of these millions of people is Mike Cooper. Mike grew up in San Francisco. He went to school at Northwestern and currently lives in New York. Mike, like many of young recent graduates, has little saved, little to lose, and a lifetime of earnings ahead of him. He has spent his years since graduation aspiring to be what he believes his unique vision of what the most interesting man in the world is. So he has bought the clothes, he's taken the thrilling vacations, he eats at the restaurants, he goes to the games, but you come to his apartment and it doesn't make sense. Who's Mike? His walls are blank, they're white, they're boring. But Mike is not alone. He, like millions of Americans, are not boring. He's not alone. Our research shows that a majority of people are dissatisfied with their interiors. They feel like they don't know how to decorate, and they understand that they view this problem as a challenge. In our survey among our peers, we found the highest level of dissatisfaction among the art that they put on their walls. But why is this a problem? Among our interviews throughout the quarter, we have learned from our potential users that they look for 3 things when they're looking for art. First, they're looking for something that represents their personal life journey. They want something with locations, their profession, their alma mater. 2, they're looking for something that shows their unique style. So quirky, rebellious, classy. They want something that will mix in with their existing interiors, similar styles. But from our user from watching our users go through the shop patterns, we've come across a few problems as to why these people aren't purchasing art. And there are a number of reasons. One, it's perceived expensive. People don't want to have the same thing as everyone else. It's okay to have the same IKEA couch as 5 of your best friends, but you are unique and your walls should be the same. Two, it's really hard to shop based on personal criteria. Art is very personal. It's something that is with current existing search criteria. It's not something that's easily searchable. And three, thousands of stores and galleries, the inventory across the internet makes it very time-consuming and difficult for people to find the art that they're interested in. Additionally, looking at the existing industry, it's clear that there's a natural paradox between unique and personal items and accessibility. So up here at Christie's and ADAA, which represents the 20,000 independent galleries across the nation, we have art that's extremely unique, but as cost for Christie's, its cost is a barrier. Or with the galleries, it's time finding all these unique galleries that are interesting to you. With Blick and Michaels, it's a matter of, do you have the expertise to create the art that you might want to have the wall? Do you have that time? And then we go down to IKEA and Crate and Barrel, Target, and you're going to have the same thing that everyone else has. It's not going to represent your unique life journey or the things that you've experienced that nobody else has. So this is where Decorial comes in. We are accessible, we are easy to get to, and we also provide you with the unique art that you're looking for. But how do we do this? Our solution is we get to know you through a Facebook login where you sign in easily, and then through our various testing, we realized that we also would like to implement a quiz to narrow our search results even further. Once we have this information about you, we will go out to the internet, we will crawl through the websites, read relevant tags in an innovative way that's different than how the current art sites are showing you and populating the results for you. And then we'll bring it back to you, and we'll only show you the top 5 pieces that we feel are relevant to you. In most cases, when we've observed the users going out to the internet trying to find art that they're interested in, they'll come back with 16,000 images, and they're all the ones that they've been looking at before. So how do we create this in an easy and simple way? So right now, we're going to walk you through our MVP. So this is our existing front page. What you will see right when you log into, or you come onto Decorial website, here we have our Get Started, where you have the ability to sign in with Facebook. So we're going to return to Mike Cooper here, and he will sign in through Facebook. We see the Decorial app. We'll give permission to pull all of our information. And then it returns us to Decorial, where we have given Mike his top suggestions and then a little explanation below each print as to why we believe that this will be a piece of art that is interesting and relevant for him. So then in a clear gallery view, Mike has the ability to go through and search some of the pieces that he's interested in. We also have on the bottom where we have it popped up that, hey, Mike, take our short quiz and we'll improve our recommendations for you. This is just to kind of guarantee, in case some users don't have as much Facebook information as others, we can kind of make sure that we are still providing them trusted information. So this is our quiz where we'll go in, tell us a little bit about you, quickly choose which images pop out at you. And then once completing the quiz, it kind of returns us back to those results. Once Mike has decided to purchase it, he clicks on the link, and this will take us to the original site where the art is available for purchase. He can add it to his cart and finish the transaction. This is where we pull our revenue model. We found through our research it's anywhere between 2 and 20% for a referral fee. 20 by 200 happens to be 15%, but more realistically, we see 7% as the median across all the different sites. Returning back to our presentation, can show you a little bit about returning back to how this artwork then impacts that blank room, the boring room, the white walls that we saw before was Mike's apartment. And then Richard, if you want to go back into...
So how do we get this all to work? One of the really important things in getting the technology to work is that we cannot just rely on simple text matching to search through all these different art sites. What we needed to understand was what's really valuable and create strong semantic tags. And to do that, we use Calais, a semantic language processing tool, which uses both machine learning and natural language processing. If you look at this example from 20 by 200, we crawl through the artist bio and the art description, and we find that in this particular case, San Francisco is highlighted looking at the words around it, and thus we add to our database San Francisco with this piece of art. Another friction that we see is that users don't actually know what they want. So by using Facebook, we can immediately pull down their profile information as well as past locations. And we can analyze those profiles and see that a user is from San Francisco in this case and match him with art because it's more likely that he would be inclined to purchase and like a piece of art with that tag associated with it. So as we mentioned, our initial plan is to go with Facebook scraping, but in order to get some more information, or in the cases where users don't have that much information in their Facebook profile, we are implementing a quiz to get information about artistic tastes and other things that are hard to gather. How will we reach users? We're looking at many of the traditional channels of blogs, affiliate programs, and paid online advertising. One thing that's particularly interesting to us is highly targeted advertising on platforms such as Facebook. The reason that it's very interesting in our case is because we can verify that users from a certain network, say from the San Francisco network or universities that are nearby, and when we target them, we know that when they come to our site, what pieces of art we already have in our inventory that will match them, and we can ensure that they have a good user experience. Additionally, users can also find us through social channels. We have seen through companies like Zynga and Shoedazzle that social sharing is very valuable, and we believe that our target segment is also very interested in finding hip sites and sharing them. So by implementing sharing links with Facebook and sites like Pinterest, where people can share their interests, we believe that we can gain some awareness with our core market very cheaply. 1 minute. Looking at our opportunity, we're initially targeting the yuppie art segment, but we feel that this can move forward to art and decor as well as larger segments our technology can scale. We have, in this case of decor, we have things like pictures that are in use in New England or baskets that are used throughout Seattle, so we believe that this technology can scale to these markets. As far as unfair advantages, we have a very wide variety of technical expertise as well as members of our team that have worked in retail and art, and we believe that our product will become very sticky as we add more art to our inventory, as well as when we analyze our users' clicks and likes, what they've clicked on, what they've clicked through, we can implement collaborative filtering in order to return even better results and draw even more users. And this is our team. Like I said, we have a wide variety of experiences coming from e-commerce to software development to retail. Questions?
So it's actually timely because I just moved and I'm actually looking for art myself. So it's very pertinent to what you're talking about. The types of questions you asked were true. And I have the same questions. One assumption that the presentation seems to make is that your social identity equals the same identity that you want to represent in your house, which I don't know if that's true or not. For example, the stuff I share online and the places I go online really isn't reflective of the type of art that I buy. One thing that might be interesting is how do couples fit into this equation? So I can tell you that I may find a bunch of really cool art and my partner's like, no, that's terrible. So it'd be interesting to tie that concept together, especially as it relates to sharing between the two. So, he'll find something online and then we can review it together or whatever. One idea was making it more visual. So like art for me is very visual. There's actually an iPhone app called Houzz, H-O-U-Z-Z. And it has an idea of you can visually identify with certain types of things, and it gives you suggestions based on aspects of the photo. You're like, I like this couch. I like this picture, I like this table, then it kind of takes all those things, aspects of the photo, and it gives you suggestions based on that. So that was.
Yeah, one comment is that the whole premise of this, you seem to be saying, is that you can use social signals to predict what type of art people want. And I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I think you'll need to prove that out, and it may be that you may want to start from the quizzes, or what I would call almost like hot or not for art, right? Like, which ones do I like, and that's how you draw people into this, and then use that signal on top of their social signals to figure out how that might predict it. And the second thing I might want to say about this is that, you know, figure out how to disrupt the interior design industry, right? Like, that's today, like, interior designers are like, they have a special license that allows them to go to the merchandise mart and buy special things that no one else can buy. And it's unattainable probably for the largest market segment, right? So if you can somehow replicate what they do in a social setting, like, I think that's a huge market, right? But just saying, like, college kids graduating have empty walls, like, I don't know if that problem needs to be solved or not, because eventually you're going to make money, you can go solve that problem. But if you can get them faster into having an interior designer, like, that's something I think that's a huge market that's there to be disrupted. Yeah.
Have the same legal license as the insurance.
Yeah.
And that was the most impactful thing for me. It's I'm starting to make a little bit of money, and I'm starting to decorate my walls. It's not a matter of, can I find one piece and purchase that piece? I think that's actually part of the problem. It's seeing it as a whole through the process that's actually going to be more interesting to me. And the other thing I'd say is look beyond the profile for data that can actually help you match. Because like Steve says, I don't know if that's going to really do it, but if you actually figure that out, it would be really cool, pretty significant on that side.
A quick comment, you may want to tap into the Amazon and TripAdvisor type thing, where if someone else likes these types of art, then they also like other kinds, associative. And so if people are responding to your quizzes, or, you know, which one do you like, can you figure out which ones other users finally picked or bought based on that?
Our plan is to implement some form of collaborative filtering with our initial users, measure as much data as possible.
I think you guys have a very compelling approach here, which is great. I'm a small investor in Polyvore, and this is Polyvore for walls, and it's a very cool idea. I also have a business that's based on affiliate commissions partly, and one of the things I would ask you to do next is run the economic model, not only on the customer acquisition cost, but the LTV, to figure out if you can really have a profitable business ever with the kind of conversion rates you're going to need to see. That will define sort of your channel strategy too, in terms of how you get users. The second thing I would say is all those sites update their catalogs nightly with inventory, so you've got a big data tagging problem potentially in terms of how what your ongoing operating costs are, and figuring that out is a key thing as well. Because as you know, that data set will go stale 24 hours from now, so somehow you're going to have a very efficient way of redoing all the data tags so that you're actually presenting art that's available that day.
It seems to me that you could do a lot of testing by focusing on one affinity group initially, and perhaps develop the model to address a very specific need, like urban dwellers, for example, get the right partnerships in place, build the model, learn a lot, and then try to go more broadly. It seems to me that you're biting off a lot here with your initial sort of walls everywhere approach.
Yeah, just building on that, I was going to ask, what is your sort of primary target user profile, and build that person out and test it in a small environment with those folks. Like, you put up that chart with a lot of ways to buy art. I'm in a similar situation. My room is like complete white walls while my rest of the apartment looks nice. But if I need to get art, I just kind of go to Target or whatever quickly. But I would rather aspire to have better art. I just get lazy. So I might not be the right person to target right away. So one comment around there, and then we're investors in Beachmint, and one thing we've talked about with Beachmint is, the quiz is great, and algorithm-based recommendations work. Like Pandora, it works pretty well. I don't know about nowadays, but it worked for a while. But it doesn't always work with all types of recommendations, so something to think about. And then how do you optimize it? So once you've done the quiz, the next piece is how can I pull in artwork that I like, and then you can learn from that. So I would think about adding something like that.
I just had a question whether you guys have explored or will explore a rental model in addition to sales.
I get the fact that I could go struggle with going into a bunch of different sites, but no one does this kind of curation on them.
Don't have any direct competitors with them all. So we have the Facebook and the Facebook scraping and quiz, and the only we see doing that is a site called Monthly, which does gift recommendations. And then someone who just does the Facebook scraping side with recommendations is Etsy. And then there are a bunch that just do quiz. So there's no one in our direct competitive set that's just both sides.
People are trying to solve the problem different ways. They're trying to solve the problem of putting art on your walls in different ways.
One Etsy are more general in terms of selling crafts. Some of them include art, but not all of them. We're more focused on.
Are you the only one that's just focused on putting paintings on people's walls?
Yes.
That's great.
But you can use Etsy. So I can use this and buy something from Etsy.
That's what. So right now, the sites that we have, we don't have Etsy as one of the sites that we are able to use.
Yeah, but hypothetically, that's another problem. Is it's extraordinarily fragmented market, especially when you look at galleries. I mean, it's something like 95% have 9 employees or fewer. It's like truly a mom and pop industry, and so it's really hard to aggregate and create cross sites, whether it's Etsy or 20 by 200 or at the gallery down the way. That would be
That is the case. That's what's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is that
Could become a link share of art. Because it's going to be affiliate aggregator of art.
So I had maybe 2 comments. So one was, is this the whole team standing up here right now? Okay. So who's not taking notes?
Relying on video recording.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I'd suggest for the rest of the teams, one of you should be designated as the note taker, just to make sure you write every last little thing down. The other comment I'll make is that I think there's a tension between collaborative filtering on the one hand and this desire for distinctiveness on the other hand, and I think that might be a problem.
I think most of the comments have been great so far, so I'll just add little nits and nats. One thing, and I'm not familiar with the House app, but one thing I was envisioning was how great would it be if I avoided the problem of returns and everything else, if I could actually see what you recommended on my wall, whether you take the picture with your iPhone and then you allow me to see it on my wall. I don't know if I missed that. That was one thing. Another thing was we talked a lot about the social criteria and, you know, can you really have a predictive feed from like my Facebook profile? Well, I agree that that can pose a challenge, but if you take maybe a couple social profiles, such as somebody's Pinterest interests as well, where you see visually what they like in terms of their living room or bedroom from what they've pinned, then that may provide a little bit better of an analytic perspective and help you on your algo side.
Not to duplicate comments so far, I would say that of what hasn't been talked about at length, my greatest concern would be the likely economic viability of it, the likely conversion to paying customers and what you will ultimately reap from that. And I think that's going to require a lot of work on your part as you move forward in this concept.
Hold on.
Mobile 2, it's a Mobile 2 team. We're going to move you guys up earlier. We're going to move you guys up to 205. You're going to flip-flop with New Media because New Media is having a server issue. Okay, so Mobile 2, you guys are going to be around 205, probably a little after that because we're running a little bit late. Okay?
My name is Matt Kowalder. I'm a member of the iPad team along with my colleagues over here. Now, there are many problems that we deal with on an ongoing daily basis, such as what are you going to wear today? What am I going to watch on TV? All of these problems are very big, but none more big than what am I going to make for dinner tonight? This is a problem that we deal with on a recurring, ongoing, daily basis. Meet Liz. Liz lives with her significant other, is 20 to 34 years old, works a 9-to-5 job. She cooks at home for 2. She also plans meals at the last minute. And she thinks recipes are old. She doesn't like the traditional, I open a cookbook and I'm looking for recipes. That's not what she's looking for. She doesn't really like going through all of the sites and all of the shuffle to try to figure out what the answer to this simple question is. She wants an easier solution. There are 36 million potential Liz's in the United States alone. 82% of them enjoy cooking. 40% of them cook at home 5 or more times per week. All of them cook at home at least once per week. More than half of them plan dinner on the day of. Less than 25% of them plan dinner more than a day in advance. Further, as a macroeconomic statistic, spending on food at home has risen 10% from 2005 to 2010, while spending on food away from home has declined by 5%. The problem is Liz doesn't know what to make for dinner, and there's all this shuffle of options out there. They're all trying to maximize relevancy and minimize effort, but the problem is none of them are doing a very good job at it. There's all these competitors out there, and you have to shuffle through so much information to try to get something that actually meets your needs. Where we define relevance is what satisfies your palate, what are you capable of making. Effort is simply how much time does it take to make whatever I'm trying to find, or how much time does it take to find whatever I'm trying to make. So nobody's really maximizing relevancy and minimizing effort. The current solutions lack relevance, for instance. Here's an example of one of our competitors, Supercook. Based on these 3 ingredients, basil, steak, and steak sauce, it's 3 pretty common ingredients. The 3rd and 4th best responses are watermelon juice and basil lemonade. Immediately if a user logs onto this site, they're not going to use this site again. They're already immediately turned off. So what is Liz going to make for dinner? She's working her 9 to 5, she's coming home, she wants a really simple answer. Well, we have that answer. That answer is supper. This is your ingredients, your preferences, and instant answers. Supper seeks to maximize relevancy and minimize the amount of effort that you have to put in, and is a better solution for the mass market than anything that's available that's out there today. So here's how it works. It's very simple. You log onto your iPad app, and you have this very picturesque display. And then, for instance, let's select chicken, tomato, and then if we want to just scroll across, we can go to produce, and let's add onion and corn. And then let's go to carbs, and let's add pasta. In the lower right here, I don't know if you can see it because of this TV, but you have a automatic updater that's telling telling you how many recipes are available. You click on View Dishes, and you have this very picturesque interface, a large picture that tells you, it shows you exactly what the food's going to look like. It tells you what the recipe is, and then in the upper left here, it has, this is the first recipe of 4 that you can choose. So if you want to look at the other recipes, you can just simply swipe on your iPad, and boom, you get them. So there's 4 recipes, for instance. Now let's go back, because I actually like the first one. So I'm going to choose to cook the linguine with chicken, corn, and rice. I just simply click on Cook This, and boom, here's my recipe. Here's what you have, here's what you need. Here are very simple steps that I can use to make this recipe, and here's the time that it takes. And then a link to the full recipe if you need it. So let's go back to the presentation. So you've seen the interface, you've seen how simple it is. Now the main thing is, how are we going to get people to use this interface? We have a 3-step process, and it's focused on targeting Liz. Where is Liz? Well, Liz is coming home at 5 p.m. every day, so we're going to advertise on the commuter routes. We're going to get her right when she's coming off the train, when she's coming off the bus. And we're going to tell her about this great product and how easy it is for her to figure out what she's going to make for dinner tonight based on what she already has in her kitchen. We're going to market directly at gyms and yoga studios because that's where Liz is hanging out and spending a lot of her time. We're also going to advertise at coffee shops and lunch cafes because that's where Liz is spending her time from 12 to 5. And by the way, of that 50% stat of the Liz's that decide that they want to cook meal on the same day, the majority of them, about 70%, decide what they want to cook after noon. So that's why we're targeting these specific areas. We're also going to do a social media blitz. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Clear app. They did a lot of guerrilla marketing, and they got people to sign up for their app right away. We think that once people use our app, they're going to fall in love with it because it's so easy to use. We're also going to use active blogging and Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Finally, we're going to engage cooking couples. That means we're going to find them where they're together as groups of 2 and where they're making these decisions. So community cooking classes, we're going to find them there, and we're also going to spread the word through word of mouth. How are we going to make money? We're going to use the freemium model. We think it's very important to give away a free version of the app to begin because you need to build a user base. This is a problem that is built on a recurring basis. People are deciding what to make every single day. If you get people using the app, then that's going to build your user base, and you're going to drive adoption, and it's going to become part of their behavior and part of the routine that sits behind what they do on a daily basis. We've also had advertisers that are very interested. We've talked with grocery stores, and they said this is something that we'd be interested in because it's contextual advertising. When people are in the process of making the decision of what they're going to make to eat that day, they are able to say, okay, you have this and you need this, here's how you can get what you need. You can link to all sorts of cooking utensils, food, and the like. In the premium version, which we're going to sell, there will be unlocked recipes, greater customization, and limited ads. And we're also going to shoot for a higher price point because we don't necessarily believe that selling this for 99 cents displays the premium ability of the app. We would go for a higher price point and show people that we're entering the market with a quality product. The user insights have already shown market appeal. We've shown people the mock-ups. What is happening right now, despite all those options that are out there, Liz is using Google. Simply put, she's typing in what she wants using a search engine, and it's frustrating. The comments we got is it seems a lot better than Googling recipes. I can find the answers to the problems and trying to figure out what I'm going to make in much quicker time frame. Second, time and relevancy reign supreme, and we don't think that the market has really grasped this yet. So that's why we've built everything on maximizing relevancy and minimizing effort. And like our customers say, it looks so much more useful than other recipe sites. It's a picture-driven interface. Pictures are driving decision-making. As you saw with the interface, you simply, and this is also available on the iPad, you simply touch the ingredients that you have, you can swipe, you add what you have in your kitchen, and it generates a list of recipes that you can make right then, right there in 30 minutes or less. So what are we going to do over the next 4 months? We're going to complete the alpha version. We do have a working version on the iPad. I'll show it to you very quickly, just so you know what it looks like. But as you can see, it's the identical thing that you saw on the screen. So we have a working version. We're going to work on that. That's the alpha version. And then we're also going to launch the beta version in the April timeframe and execute our user acquisition strategy. We're going to get people signing up for this. And we're going to continuously get feedback and update the app based on user feedback. In May, we're going to launch the full product across all platforms. We're not limiting this to the iPad, although we are the iPad team, but we do believe that's the interface that will be most useful, along with the mobile app so people can use this on their way home. And they can use some pre-thought and maybe walk by the grocery store, for instance, and pick up those last few things that they need. Finally, in June, we're going to continue to improve the user experience. And then most importantly and beyond, we really see this as something that begins in the stage that it is, But what we're really helping users do is discover ways that they can use what's in their kitchen right now. This starts with a simple recipe engine that works in the way you did and helps you answer the question, what are you going to make for dinner? But there's a lot more applications of this that we can use in the future. Further, we're also thinking Liz is a customer that we're going to target. By targeting Liz, there's going to be spillover. Other people that aren't Liz are going to be interested in this app. The numbers that we have right now are just for a United States entry. However, the numbers that would be interested in using this interface are a lot greater than 36 million. And then if you bring this thing worldwide, we're talking about numbers that are huge. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening and open it up to questions.
How do you get the copyrighted recipes?
So the recipes are crowdsourced. So we have people that are submitting recipes, and then our team has a two-step process. The first is they upload into a specific template that fits the algorithm that we're using, and then that template has to be approved by somebody on our team before it's uploaded. But we estimate that it takes, once somebody gets good at this, it takes no more than 10 to 15 seconds to approve a recipe.
But you have to make sure that it works, though, right?
Right, well, that's what the template will be for.
So
So
the
it'll,
recipe actually is, you know, it works, right? It
oh,
tastes
like,
good, you
yeah,
know,
the
right,
ingredients
right.
and such. Right, so that would be part of our team screening process.
What are yeah, I'm sorry. And the other thing is that, you know, you might want to add like nutritional and time to prepare filtering.
So,
you know, if I'm, you know, I need low carb, I'm, you know, lactose intolerant or you know, whatever, and then I only have 20 minutes, I only have half an hour to that.
So I forgot to mention this, but we do, and we have it in an appendix slide, but we have a profile, a user profile that sits behind this interface. It's optional for the user to to fill out, so as to not, you know, preclude them from actually adopting and using the product. But the profile does ask those questions: dietary restrictions, amount of time, different appliances that you may have in your kitchen, and the like.
Couple things. You spelled supper wrong first. It's SPPR because you can't use the files. The other thing is, this is one of those problems that seems like a no-brainer, right? Everybody wants to solve the whole cooking and making it quick thing. And the reason you have so many competitors trying to figure it out is because it's such an enticing problem. But to me, as the only person who cooks in my house, and the other thing is the stats that you got, I can't believe out of 82% of females have interest in cooking, I didn't find one. I mean, that was pretty hardcore.
They don't live in Chicago.
Yeah. I'm going home with that one. My concern is that you're trying, like, it's such a big behavior change that I'd like to see how you're addressing the behavior change, not just with the interfaces. Because if you're talking about making it easier, a picture interface seems like it's making it easier, but then why can't I just type in pasta, or just show me pasta, or show me, you know, chicken Alfredo, or just type it in and just do it that way? That is still faster, way faster than picking out the ingredients. So.
I think, should I answer these or just
First of all, I thought it was a good presentation. The question I had is, you know, you're giving away the razor blades. What about the razor? It's an ad model, right? So you give away the product and you're going to make money through advertising revenue. Is that the model? So it's hard. It's a slog, having been in that business. An idea for you to consider is marketing partnerships, and you be the rev share affiliate in between. So you sign up craft, you sign up food companies, and you work on their behalf. And as you sell their product, you get revenue. So you aren't just playing the ad game at a low CPM.
Yeah, to add upon that comment, I know you're targeting Liz that's at home on the kitchen, but I would also think if Liz is somebody that's transient coming home from work, you have her on the mobile interface on the way, and if she's checking her recipes, maybe Barilla or Kraft has an ingredient that she has in one of that she might not have at home, but that she needs. You could obviously send that through. She can stop off at the store on her way off the L. So just to add on to that. Another thing is, I don't know your competitors that well. I know some of them, but one thing that I always like to think about is this feature versus product. You know, is it something that somebody else already has a scale and they can just add this on as a feature set? That's going to be very tough for you to compete against. And the third thing comes back to the very first comment, which is, you know, this is a crowdsourced recipe generation. How are you gathering all of these recipes on scale? And trusting that the recipes are good, I think, to the first point.
I thought it was a good presentation generally, but I've got to say that I didn't hear you mention anything about challenges and risks. Maybe I blinked and missed it, but oh, sorry. I did blink and miss it. Okay, then I did blink and miss it. Sorry on that. But I think it is a crowded space out there. And, you know, for you guys, I agree with the comment back here a lot about trying to think of other ways to enrich your revenue mix potential, because it's crowded for the advertisers too. So to have, you know, a heavily advertising-based revenue model, I think, is going to be a potential problem moving forward.
So this is actually something that is kind of near and dear to my heart because I do something like this already. One of the things that to think about is maybe the types of questions people ask when they're going to be making dinner. So is it always just the ingredients? But I think they've been alluded to, like time or dietary restrictions. But in terms of like the monetization and tying in with advertisements, you know, and actually this goes into with your customer target customer base, but it might be helpful if you take an already motivated group of customers, those that are following, say, P90X or the paleo diet, and you tie in with those programs who already have meal plans. And it's really hard to, you know, with your concept of picking ingredients, you can include all that stuff, but if you can get some kind of advertising partnerships with those programs, the people that are following those programs are already going to be motivated to use an application to help them achieve their goals. So to the extent that you can leverage those highly motivated people and tie in with those programs from a marketing or whatever cost sharing perspective.
I got that the business model is contextual advertising, but the whole front end coming into the system is about using things that you don't have to buy. So I'm not sure that those two really fit together. In other words, if my goal is to be able to prepare a meal based on what I already have at home, then I'm already thinking I actually don't want to go to the store. And on the other hand, if I'm happy to go shopping, I don't really need a system that starts with what I have in my cupboard. So it would seem to me that the advertisers don't have a great chance of converting a user who really wants to skip the recommendation because they had to go get an ingredient and maybe go to the next one that's based on all the ingredients I already have, so I actually don't need to go to the store.
Speaking as Liz, I mean, I kind of wish this was a little more aspirational because the product is very functional and treats cooking like it is supposed to be a functional sort of chore-like thing. I hate cooking. So at least show me like how great I can be, or, you know, can I cook as well? Are you going to make it as easy for me to be Mario Batali? You know, that sort of thing.
I think you should spend some time focusing on your go-to-market strategy because there is this recipe problem and user problem. If there aren't enough recipes, your users are going to, as you know, what Gabe said, your users are going to go away right away, right? And if you don't have enough users, then people aren't going to upload crowdsourced recipes because there's no audience there to receive them. So, I think you got to really focus on how you manage, you know, this liquidity, right, between users and consumers in your go-to-market strategy when you consider that.
I think sourcing recipes from celebrity chefs might add a lot of value to it because crowdsourcing recipes would take a lot of time to get, you know, really good ones in your database.
It kind of as a summary of several of the last comments, and I've given this to many different entrepreneurs, you have a pretty good vision for what's going to happen. There are going to be more visual applications for recipes. There are going to be better applications for recipes. There are going to be better ways and more iPad, nice touch, high touch interface ways to deal with cooking and recipes. But I didn't hear why you are going to be the one that actually lives in the marketplace at the end of the day. When this vision gets accomplished, why you versus all the other guys that are already established, already in the market? They're working on exactly this same problem. There are probably another 43 startups working on exactly the same problem. So what I would want to hear in future things is, what have you thought about or worked through in the market that really either understands your customer better, appeals to them better, like example of celebrities, or make me a fantastic chef, and so on, to what makes you the special solution here?
And cooking is not flossing. Like, you can actually make it fun. And when you see somebody who's
One of the problems that you stated, or maybe one of the truisms you stated, is that a lot of this is done last minute on the way home or something like that. Maybe that's what you want to solve and say like, hey, it's Monday, plan out a week's worth of meals for me based on this criteria. And then I have impetus to go buy the stuff for that particular week or something like that, because that gives me the incentive and it ties together some of the problem with the advertising channel and so forth rather than the other way around.
Just one thing you may want to consider, and this may have been done already, but if you could sort of reverse engineer your process so that they picked recipes for the week and it generated the shopping list that they would need to go to the store. And then you could, to Carter's point earlier, you could form some partnerships with the suppliers of the ingredients. Just a thought.
Next up is Mobile 3.
Actually, I don't know what
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Food.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm coming in, so you go ahead.
Madger, are there any papers down there?
No.
Cool. See where these are, right? I don't play this fancy consumer space anymore.
Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Peter Eck and I am part of Team Mobile 3. We are the food backing team. So to start things off, I thought I'd introduce this fact that a lot of people know that it's tough to start a business. Since we're doing that right now, we certainly know that it's tough to start a business. It's really tough to start a restaurant. In fact, over 50% of restaurants fail in their first 3 years. 50%, that's a bad number. And when we started building our business about 3 months ago, that was what really drove us. We thought there had to be a better way. We could help improve this. So to help us understand why that 50% number might be there and how we can improve it, I thought I'd take a quick poll. So to start out, just out of a show of hands, how many of you know a restaurant in your neighborhood where you live right now that just didn't quite get things right and they closed down? They were close, but things were a little off. Yeah, the menu or the service, the price points. Right, most of us know that place, at least one, probably in the last month we can give an example. Okay, second question. How many of you have ever wanted to share feedback about a restaurant visit, but you didn't want to pull the owner aside, or you were afraid that they were going to spit in your food, right? How many of us have never, actually stepped up and said something? Yeah, same for us. And then the last one's kind of a toss-up. So how many of us want our local restaurants to succeed, right? Definitely me, yeah. So that's what we're here for, and that's what we're working on. So we are food backing, and we're
going to solve this problem by doing a better job of connecting restaurants with their diners to improve on how they're trying to capture feedback today. So what they're trying to do today, we've seen all these things, comments, cards left in the receipt, at the end of the meal. Maybe they put a link to a survey on the receipt, and you have to call in and answer 30 questions, and there's some sweepstakes involved. None of these things work. Staff don't have time to really capture feedback and share it. Yelp isn't designed to fix this either. Yelp is for finding new places to go eat. It's not about connecting restaurants and diners, and that's the big problem. So restaurants don't have time if something is time-consuming. They want real-time, two-way communication. If there's a problem, they want to know about it right away and be able to fix it, tell their staff about it. They need a way to get this information and be able to use it, and that's what we've done. So food backing is the solution to this problem. The way it works is pretty simple. Restaurants sign up, we implement same day. No complicated IT plug-in. We get in there, we get them set up in 5 minutes. Food backers hear about the service, they find and visit local places. Then you get into this virtuous cycle of the food backers share feedback. Get it? Feedback, very creative, right? Food backers share feedback. So you pull out your phone. When you're in the restaurant. You submit your food back, and that goes straight to the restaurant. They can route it however they want. But the big thing is they reply back. So it's actually a two-way conversation, and they rate the food backer. So if I say something really helpful, whether it's my comment's good or bad, they actually get to rate that. And then other restaurant owners over time see, hey, Peter knows what he's talking about. I better listen to his comments. So this virtuous cycle is really important. This is very different from anything else you'll see today. This is a two-way, real-time, confidential conversation. So it's not being posted on Yelp. This is a conversation between the restaurant and the diner that actually help them improve. And that's something that's really different. So how does this work? Dan's going to take us through an example. So Dan is an Evanston foodie. Imagine Dan heard about this product 2 weeks ago from a friend. He said, hey, there's this really cool new service called food backing. All you have to do is share feedback with local restaurants, and then you get invited to cool events like launch parties and special events that restaurants do. That, maybe they're changing their menu. They're going to bring people in for a special party to test that out. You should sign up and try it out. So he did, and now he just went to Davis Street Fish Market. Sure enough, right there on the table, they're saying, hey, we'd like to hear from you. Share your food backing with us and tell us what you think. So he pulls out his mobile phone. He goes and says, I love the salmon. Is it wild caught or fresh? I already know what he's thinking. Wild caught or farm, excuse me. And submits it. So it's clear that it's a question. He sends it right away. That restauranteur has that question. That's a conversation happening between a restaurant and a diner. And it's not depending on the staff person. The owner can be doing it. The owner could follow up later. They can respond back. That gets pinged back to the diner. So you're actually connecting with these restaurants in a very meaningful way. And this is not something that's public. This is not on the Yelp page. If you had an issue, you talk to the restaurant owner, you fix the problem. Give them a chance to succeed, right, before you take this stuff on Yelp. So really that's what we're about. We're about connecting the restaurants and the diners, helping them improve. All real time, whether it's easy whether you're on your laptop or whether you're on your smartphone. So, what is the benefit? What do we just see, right? Well, we just saw real-time, confidential, constructive feedback for the restaurant. That's extremely valuable. The information's there when they need it. On the diners, they just got this great feeling of Dan just helped a restaurant. He asked a question. He's building loyalty with this place, and that makes him feel good, but then he also gets a chance by doing this to get invited to these special events. So what are our channels? How are we going to reach these people? It's pretty easy. Restaurants, if they're there, we can walk in and talk to them. We've been doing that all along. If they're a new restaurant, we can track license applications. They have to apply to get a license from the city. So that's our sell list right there for new restaurants. And then we could go to local business organizations. They have one for downtown Evanston where we can get all these restaurants at once. On the diner side, again, you can leverage the local networks. There is a social network as well to help get the word out there about food backing. Again, the food back's confidential, but you can still post on the Facebook, hey, I just helped Davis Street Fish Market by posting food backing. And then, of course, there's local food blogs, there's in-restaurant advertising. We're definitely going to reach the restaurants and the diners. So how does this business work? Again, it's pretty simple. We start with a very low-risk, high-awareness, and low-cost selling. So we get in there and say, hey, why don't you try out this service? It's $20 a month. $20, I mean, that's one extra customer for a place like Davis Street Fish Market. One extra customer a month, $20 for the service. So really low risk. We get in there, we start building a relationship, we get the awareness. And then on the back end, that's where we really drive the revenue growth and have the impact. Because when they do these special events, we bring in the very best food backers from our network. give them very high quality feedback, and get them the information they need to be successful. Our costs are very lean. This is not a high manpower business to run. We think we can do it very efficiently. So how big is the market? Well, we all know more, been to more restaurants than we could ever remember or name. In fact, there are over 500,000 restaurants in the US, and a large portion of them, nearly 50%, are independent, full-service restaurants. Places like Davis Street Fish Market. And any restaurant like that, the customer experience is critical, and we have an opportunity to improve upon that. So we think this is a very large market. We could expand into small chains and some of the quick service restaurants moving forward. Initially, we're going to focus on this independent full-service restaurants. So, we thought about what's really going to make this business work, and we thought we put in some very conservative assumptions. So, we think on the restaurant side, right? For either one, it's a simple model of coverage. How many can we reasonably expect to contact? How many are we going to convert into customers, and what's the churn rate? For restaurants, the big issue is conversion, right? We think that we can convert 30% into customers. If this ends up being 10%, 20%, that's going to be the issue for us. On the diner side, conversion is less of a concern. People will try out a new app. It's more about churn when you're talking about diners. Are they going to use this service on an ongoing basis? So we think we have conservative assumptions in here. And the big thing is when you put this in, the business is profitable and it scales quickly. So this really works. We think that we can become profitable within the first year. We need just over 500 restaurants to become profitable, and just over 1,500 to make our first $1 million in revenue. So again, this is a short run rate. We really see an opportunity here. But how do we know that we actually have this right? How do we know that that's not just our forecast? Well, we've been talking to restaurant owners to see what they think and what they say. Turns out they love it. So far, pretty much everybody we've talked to has been willing to at least try it, and they all think it's a great idea. Whether they've been around and successful for 30 years, or they're just trying to find their feet and get started. So this is a sampling of what Evanston general managers say. We're going to start our business in Evanston. We better be able to sell there before we prove the concept for other markets. They love it. Davis Street Fish Market, we tried to go and talk to this guy for 5 minutes, and he stopped us and said, no, you got to come in. You're onto something, and we need to do this right and really talk about it. So, so far the reception's been fantastic. But, that said, what are our barriers to competition? We know there are going to be challengers if we're successful, and how are we going to fend those off? 4 simple ways. Number 1, we have a better focus. I talked about all the problems with Yelp and the other solutions that are out there. They're all focused on the diner, not improving the restaurant and the restaurant's connection with the diner. That's what we're doing. We also have a better model. So that feedback thing I talked about, where the restaurants get to rate the quality of the feedback, the food back. That makes our service better the more it's used. So that we get better intel on which people provide the best feedback and how restaurants interact with those individuals. So we get better and better. We also have a better approach. So we're actually improving the local dining scene, right? Yelp is a great tool that's out there, but there's not really a solution in place to improve a local dining scene and actually give people like me and Dan and everybody in this room an opportunity to feel like we're connecting with the restaurants in our neighborhood and really creating a relationship. So that's something that's pretty unique and that we're really excited about. And then finally, we've got great growth options. If this thing takes off, right, as it grows, big firms are going to want to buy us because buying us is going to make more sense for them than trying to build it from the ground floor up. Or customers are going to start calling us to say, hey, we want in. How do we do this? And our sales job becomes easier. So this is a business that scales very, very well. Finally, no business is without its risks, and we've thought of these as well. On the restaurant side, managers are very, very busy, right? It takes a lot of work to run a restaurant. We also have to make sure they're willing to pay for our services. Food backing is easy. They can access it at any time of day. It's always there for them. So we fix that. And then the sell-in. Remember I talked about that low-risk sell-in. We get in, we start the relationship, we prove our value, so we can get that price point. On the diner side, we got to convert diners to food backers. We think there are a lot of ways to reach them through marketing and do that. And then we got to make sure they give good feedback. Right? So how do we do that? Well, they're going to feel good about giving feedback, so that's a huge indicator that they're going to want to participate. But then that feedback loop, again, helps us reward the best food backers out there in our community. Helps us recognize them and invite them to special events that keeps them engaged and keeps the system running well. So that's food backing. I'd just like to close by recognizing the huge amount of work that this entire team has put in over the past several months. We're really proud of our product, and we we're having fun reaching out to restaurants and hoping to get some free food in the process. So, happy to answer any questions, take any comments.
I just have one quick one. In terms of signing up restaurant owners, if you look at the Groupon experience of signing up local merchants in local markets, I think you may be underestimating the effort involved in scaling that initiative.
I had a similar thought, but when I was watching this, online businesses have a ton of feedback and data mechanisms to see what's happening in the purchase cycle. Offline, in-person businesses don't. So my first question was, why just restaurants? You guys are solving this is a SaaS application for purchase processes in brick and mortar situations. So restaurants are very low margin. I don't know an SMD business that I've seen that has less than 5 to 7% churn a month. So I think your economics totally change if you put realistic churn rates in. But if you're selling to car dealers or other much higher ticket items and finding out in that process what's going wrong, you're actually giving them analytics that they could really apply to their business and would have a really direct value prop to put in front of them. So my question would be, why restaurants? I think you're onto something, and it's a great SaaS play for offline purchase dynamic.
So I'll build on that. Definitely onto something. I was really excited to know more about this presentation or about what you guys are actually doing. I was actually surprised that you guys didn't present any kind of dashboards. It's great to show that they're going to get feedback, but what to do with the feedback, and some suggestions there as far as like your sales team is concerned. Maybe they're not just out getting the quick sale. One of the biggest complaints about Groupon salespeople is that they leave them high and dry. Like, make sure that your team is actually helping them get this off the ground. And I would focus on restaurants or focus on one segment just to get that focus, because if you do solve it there, then it's really easy to apply across verticals.
We absolutely started with that bigger picture in mind for our focus.
I totally see the value for the restaurants. I'm not convinced there's enough incentive for the diners to use this application right now. And I think the reason people typically give comments are either for ego reasons. They like their comments to show up and they like to see responses to that, and they like the ego feedback loop. You may get that here if the owners get involved, but it's not clear to me that that's necessarily going to happen, and the good feeling just isn't enough to get this going. So how you reward the best, I think, is important and something you need to think about beyond just being invited to special events or whatever.
So I've actually had some experience with some online survey plays, and one thing you have to be careful about is false negatives, because there's a behavioral pattern. People think if they comment negatively on something, they're going to get some deal, or some favor is going to be curried by the proprietor, and it's at some point it starts to lose weight with the in this case the restaurant manager.
Right. That's why we kind of started to stay away from the discounting to start with. Yeah. We're not sure if we'll have to move there, but we didn't want to start there. Yeah.
The other thing that I guess when I was thinking about this is, seems like a feature, more to me at least. It seems more like a feature right now than a product. So we're actually invested in a company called Single Platform, selling to restaurants. So we know how it goes in terms of it's not easy to sell in the restaurants. So I think some of the ideas around going to other segments is pretty good, but we leverage an inside sales model, so sort of faster to get to them. But they also have a lot of guys calling on them, and a lot of different applications that they can choose from. So they might have open table, they might have single platform, they might have something else. They have 5, 6 windows, and they don't have time. They have absolutely no time to do any of this. So to me, if you convert me into a food backer and I post something and I don't get feedback from the restaurant, I'm not using this app again. And you lose me. So I think, to me, restaurants, you'll be able to get some, but it's going to be really hard to get. As a food backer, how do you keep incentivizing those guys?
I just wanted to know if you'd given any thought to how this would compete with Yelp or OpenTable, and why a restaurant wouldn't just go there to manage their relationships with customers.
I'd love to answer that one if I can real quick. Yelp is the necessary evil of the industry. All the restaurant owners and managers told us they hate it, but they also check it every morning. So it's sort of a give and take. And Yelp is they're worried about what people are posting out on Yelp. We're trying to give people restaurant owners an opportunity to fix something before it gets to Yelp. Once it's on Yelp, that's never sold.
Just one more thought.
Yeah.
So to the comment of instead of you going after those users, what if you look at sort of partnerships with a publisher site like Metromix or Yelp or anyone where you're submitting feedback, but it's private, right? So you can leverage platforms that people have already downloaded and are using.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Our final team before break is big data.
Papers. I think they're just going back. You can do that word.
I was gonna say.
Do you want us to like soften them up for you, like put kittens on them?
I was just curious to know why they're.
What are these?
And rather than online.
Okay, that's cool.
I think it was good. I was just far away.
Right, good afternoon everyone. We are Team Big Data and we are excited to present to you Social Curator. And let me start off by telling you something that all of you are familiar with. There are millions of pages on social media like Twitter and Facebook that basically market brands. You have pages for brands like Starbucks, Coke. In fact, today, the Oreo company is having a big initiative to celebrate its 100th birthday on Facebook. So companies are engaging in social media to promote their brand in very aggressive ways in the last few years. And we know that behind every single such page on social media, there is actually an individual who's managing the posting of the content, at least one individual for all these companies. So we'd like you to actually now meet our customer, Ashley, who's the social media manager, or as they call it right now, the community manager for an organic granola bar company, a much smaller company. It's her job to basically build up their social media profile to engage their audience. And she does that primarily by posting to her Twitter and Facebook accounts for the company, and she has to make sure that the content that she posts is fresh, relevant, and interesting. Otherwise, the audience is not going to be engaged with the social media platform. So how does she actually do that? In the next 3 slides, I'll talk about what goes behind the task of actually posting fresh, relevant, interesting content. The first thing that Ashley does to do this is to search multiple sites. She looks at sites like Google, Twitter, Hootsuite. She looks at Google Reader to get specific feeds from RSS. And she looks at very specific websites like health.com that she thinks is relevant for her target audience. In addition to that, once she has these sites, she also has to look for content that is relevant to her target audience. She does that by searching for specific hashtags on Twitter, for instance. And on all the other media that I talked about just now, she looks for specific keywords that would likely interest her audience. Things like exercise, healthy, organic, calorie, and so on. And she does all of this because she cannot post content that is unidimensional on her social media profile. If she posts content of just one type, then her user base is going to get bored and she won't be able to engage them. So what she does is to find an optimum content mix of brand relevant content and what they call lifestyle content, things like humor and sweepstakes and celebrity content and so on. And in order to add to the variety element, she also posts all of this content according to a calendar. So what she posts on Tuesday would be of a certain topic, and what she posts on a Wednesday would be of a different topic. So she gets the variety element going. So she needs to find content that meets these criteria. And the third thing is, once she finds something, she needs to actually estimate its success. She needs to figure out if that content would resonate with her target audience or not, because clearly that's her goal. And she looks at tools like Google Analytics, Facebook Insights, and third-party tools to get an idea of her audience demographics so she can better understand that audience. And then she can also look at things like if she's, for instance, retweeting a tweet, she can look at things like how many retweets has it had. Or if she's looking at a Facebook post, she can look at how many likes that post has had to measure how interesting that piece of content would be with her audience. So here's a snapshot of the problem right now. Ashley is essentially getting overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem here. She has to basically look at all these three dimensions before she actually can post something. So clearly, all she has to do is post, but there is so much work happening in the background to do that. And in our interviews, we find that this is actually a huge time sink. And Ashley actually is overwhelmed with this process. And here's our solution. So we are actually going to automate this process and make it easy for Ashley to post content. Our solution is primarily to help Ashley post content more easily. And here's a rough snapshot of how we would do it. Imagine that these are all the millions of web pages on the internet that Ashley is currently looking at manually. We would filter across three dimensions. We would look at what is fresh, then we would filter out and get just what's relevant, and then we'd get what's interesting, and I'll talk about how we actually do that in a minute. Here's our ranking algorithm, the way we propose, the way we intend to actually do this process. Among other things, once we have all the data, we need to look at these three dimensions to actually assess what content to rank high when we actually display content to Ashley. On the freshness scale, we have something called recency. How recent was a piece of content posted? Because clearly they want content that is not stale. And on the relevance side, Ashley knows that she's looking for certain kinds of keywords when she's posting content, so we look at that. Also, content posted by trusted sites like health.com or Mayo Clinic would be of more relevance. And in terms of interest, if a piece of content is posted by someone that I follow, then that would be of more interest to me than someone, say, 1,000 connections away. So that's our ranking algorithm, and we also learn from, beef up this learning algorithm with learning. So when the user on the dashboard actually provides feedback as to whether she likes or dislikes something, or if she doesn't act on a piece of content, we take that feedback in, and then in terms of results that are posted, we'll monitor them to see which pieces of content have done well and which have not, so that would be fed back into our learning algorithm as well. And now let me just transition to give you a quick demo of our product. When Ashley logs in, what she will see is a real, clean, simple to see interface of ranked news that is waiting for her to act on. So she comes in Monday morning, she has this piece of news that she can then start looking at. Let's say that she comes in and then she starts looking at all the pieces of content here, and then she sees this. She thinks this is something that her audience would like, so she decides to post it. And what it does is it doesn't automatically post, it allows her to edit, it populates this field here. So let me just edit this slightly. Just to make sure I'm under 140 characters. select that I want to post onto Twitter, and I post this. So if I refresh this, obviously, this is going to show. This is actually a brand page. This is a mock-up page that we created, and it's going to show up right here. Now, here's some of the underlying architecture behind this. So what Ashley has done when she set up this account is to list a bunch of sources here that she wants to find content from. Here we have Twitter and a bunch of health-related blogs. And in order to search from these sources, what she does is she creates what are called search bins, because she has to post content of different categories in different days. Let's say that she creates 2 different kind of buckets or search bins. One is recipe with these keywords, recipe, fruit, vegetable, and so on, and the other one is healthy. So she can actually get ranked content on multiple search bins, and this is something that the audience really wants, and that's what they actually are doing on a manual basis today. So if you go back to our home dashboard, the default search bin was recipe, but she can very easily just select healthy, refresh that, and she would get a different set of ranked news that meet these criteria. So let me just go back to my presentation right now. In terms of the target customer segment, clearly they range from across the spectrum, from very small companies from startups to all the way to very big companies as well. So based on all our interviews and secondary research, we think that our target audience is this set here. Among the in-house marketers, we are looking at medium B2C companies and large B2B companies. And among ad agencies, we're looking at small to mid-size companies, because this is the set that has the biggest problem that they're facing right now. And promisingly for us, a lot of the customers that we've spoken to have expressed a willingness to pay, and they have a marketing budget of roughly around $1,500 to $2,000 that we hope will be used to pay for our product. And this business model is just very rough at this point, but essentially what we think and what we are confident of is that this is a very viable and promising model. And promisingly for us, again, in recent months, several companies in the broader social media marketing space, technology space, have been seeing good valuations, and they've raised a lot of money. So that we think of as a positive sign for us being in the space. And this is a Forrester report that just talks about the potential growth in this market. Specifically, I'd point you to the 2 numbers at the end there. So basically all it's saying is that in the next 5 years, we're going to see 26% growth. Just do one quick thing. We think there's a large market opportunity here for social media marketers that is currently untapped, because this market is using suboptimal tools that is not solving their problem. That is where we come in. And we have confidence that we can do it. We have very good customer relationships right now, with over 25 interviews done and more than 30 connections who are willing to help us. And in terms of next steps, we know that we have a lot of work ahead. Clearly, we've made progress, but there's plenty of work ahead as well. Primarily on the marketing side, we know that this space is very relationship driven, and we are working on that. We've attended a couple of social media community manager conferences already. We've built a large customer database that we are actively trying to network with, and we hope to win some of them as customers in the next quarter.
First of all, I think it's a really compelling concept, and very curious about where you guys are going to take this. In the work that I do, talking with small companies about marketing and social, the biggest question is, how do you move from how do you define engagement, and then how do you move them from the user? So how do you know all this stuff that she's doing is it feel good work, or is it resulting in engagement? And then how do you move them from engagement to action? So as you work on the back end of this, as you keep that loop through to analysis and proposed changes, if you guys can create some sort of an engagement index that shows utilization and how you deepen the actions to take to deepen the engagement index, then you're going to be on to a whole consulting arm along with your model, along with your software. Because everyone's dealing with the same thing, was, okay, so this kind of increased engagement, but did it drive any sort of action? Did they buy something? You know, did they? And we're all struggling with it.
Comment on your pricing. It just flashed up there really quickly, but that's almost B2C pricing. B2B pricing would be 10 times that. So as you build up your value proposition, you'll put in tiers. Maybe I'd even start at $100 a month. But you've got a $2,000 a month price point within your scope here. So I really like the presentation, and I think you should charge more.
Did you figure out how much budgets these social media curators have?
If I can answer that, roughly they had around $2,000 a month for these tools.
Okay, which is super, super low, right?
I love the problem you've identified, and absolutely in the agencies, they're struggling with all this. I struggled a little with the proposed solution because I'm not sure, it didn't come across to me that was substantially easier than what you laid out as the existing problem, because she's ended up managing feeds and she has to cut and paste and type, you know, things into a box just as she would like within the existing tools that are available. So I think maybe you have a lot more work to do on the product, and it's going to be richer, and I'm looking forward to seeing that, but definitely identified a good problem.
If I noticed correctly, on your team, you've got 3 PhD candidates who are focusing on data mining. So sounds like some super smart technical expertise, and I'd like to have heard more about what specifically you're doing to take advantage of that capability.
Fantastic presentation. And the company I run, we have exactly this person with exactly this problem, and the budget that we're willing to spend is somewhere between $2,000 to $5,000 a month. And so, and it's a person actually, Swathi, who used to be a. You have an alpha. I'll be happy to. And I'll pay between $2,000 to $5,000 a month, because that's effectively what we've literally in this kind of hellish, sadistic process have had interns and part-time people and full-time people. We just never solved it. What I don't get though is I think it's fantastic. So what from your hypothesis, what piece are you really thinking you're going to uniquely solve against all the other funded startups? Are you solving the engagement and action piece? Are you solving the better UI experience piece? Are you solving the which of those? Because it sounds like this is it's certainly for us, it's a multi-step issue of which it's really important to us to get solved. But is there a unique piece that you guys are focused among across all the different steps in this process?
Basically, the content curation part, filtering content from the millions of pages and bringing the user what is fresh, relevant, and because that's what takes up most of the time right now. Searching these websites to actually find interesting content. The posting part typically is not that hard, so that's the main problem we're solving. All the others are add-ons just to complete the workflow.
So not the engagement action piece.
The engagement action piece is an important factor for the same problem, because it actually helps determine what is interesting content that the user will post. So from that dimension, it's an interesting.
So you can certainly sign us up for an alpha, and then to the extent that I'm just interested to see what you guys are going to do in terms of which piece can you get really, really, really good at, because it seems that there'll be a lot of people focused on doing this.
One of the companies that you had on your competitive slide there was Sumify, who I was an investor in, and I worked very closely with them. And one of the things that always wowed their customers was just, I mean, you talk about the algorithm and you have PhDs working on the algorithm, but it just blew everyone away when they actually saw the results of like, wow, these top 3 things are really like pulled out of the weeds and just kind of blow me away. And that didn't come away in your demo. So even though you want to keep your interface looking clean and just a kind of a list doesn't necessarily do that. So think about, how you present that data to the brand manager to say like, these are the things that are the most important over this long list and why they are. Because if the algorithm is what's really important, then you kind of have to show that off. Otherwise, it all looks the same. So think about that. On the competitive side, make sure you take a look at Social Flow. They have a great tool for figuring out the right time to post this stuff, right? Like here's the curated list, and then based on looking at when things are tweeted and when are not, they'll post them at exactly the right time to get the right data and have the dashboard behind that to show that. So take a look at them and try to do some of what they're doing on the dashboard side called social flow. So.
Just one question, or comment, I guess. I understand the ROI of reducing the time that the content manager spends engaged in that activity, but I'm wondering, with your data mining expertise, it builds on something that was said earlier, can you get to the ROI of the social media in any way, shape, or form? It's a challenge. Generally, it's social media, but as you go forward with the product, if you can find some way of quantifying that, it strikes me that would be very valuable.
So the idea there are millions of web pages out there, and these content managers are hoovering around those things. I mean, when I think about like my Facebook feed and what people post on that, most of those are more news item kinds of things. And so it would seem to me that you know, human beings have a hard time doing a quality job of this today for these various brands, I think. And so I have a hard time, I know a little bit about artificial intelligence, I have a hard time imagining that a big data solution will somehow do better than human beings who struggle with this. So that's just sort of a cautionary note, I guess. And I think the timeliness stuff and sort of, there are going to be a set of sites that are sort of news-related sites that, you know, you're much more likely to click on an article that's from NewYorkTimes.com that's relevant to your thing than if it's from, you know, Joe Blow's blog. And so there's a sort of the likelihood that someone will click on some link that you posted on your Facebook status if it's from a sort of more mainstream, higher volume place. So it would seem to me that you need some bias perhaps toward that.
Very good presentation. Are you guys aware of a company called HubSpot? Google Ventures backed. Look at them, because they would love to solve this problem in their suite of tools. So they could either be a potential distribution partner for you, or a very rapid liquidity event if you solve this problem, because this is the core problem that they haven't been able to figure out how to solve for their SMB customers, which is the whole social piece. And I would echo what Carter said. It's all about engagement. It's not about traffic. It's all about how you can show an ROI. Take the argument from cost of $2,000 a month to we're going to return you $10,000 for giving us $2,000. You've got to have some sort of ROI orientation versus just a cost orientation. But if you solve this, this is a very exciting problem you're working on.
Yeah, I want to take a little bit of a different approach because I think your presentation was great and I think the feedback's been great on the product. I want to give you maybe a couple things from the VC perspective that would just help as you proceed forward. One would be understanding maybe just number-wise order of magnitude of the problem you're solving. I mean, I know this is a big issue, but and I know how much companies are willing to spend on this on a monthly basis, but are we also cutting out whoever that that individual was that you showed on your slides? Is that job then alleviated? Is that what you're going after? Are you selling into her? Who are you selling into? Just maybe understanding some of the numbers in and around the size of the problem here and where those numbers are going to come out or be extracted from. Another thing is how you're going to sell in. Again, who is your customer or target that you're selling into? Is it the CEO of the company or is it that individual that's managing it? And is there a way to scale the virality quotient within your sales function? So is that individual going to be given, you know, an incentive to sell to one of their buddies that's also a manager? Probably not, because it might be a competitor, but again, how are you going to sell this in? Are you going to be a partner with HubSpot? Are you going to be a partner with somebody else? You know, maybe it is a nice way to just get acquired if you are partners with them out of the gate, but just start to think about some of that stuff and then nail the pricing model. Because I think you really want to understand that. Who is your target customer here, and what is the price you're going after? Is it SMBs? Is it the ad agencies? Is it, you know, B2B? Is it B2C? And really understand the price point you're going after, because that will end up dictating what your sales approach is as well, right? And some of the key pieces of the product that you build out.
The brand manager can't approve the sale.
Right, exactly.
For ad agencies, because these agencies, a lot of the brands farm this stuff out to the agencies to do because they don't know anything about it. So we were just talking, the agencies might pay you, you know, a lot more, and then they might even white label it out to their different clients. So it could just be an enterprise solution more than your more broader enterprise solution.
I would just say I think one of your challenges may be focus, because there are a lot of directions this can go here. And though I hear the artificial intelligence comment, I mean, you could with the right kind of science possibly applied in the low end of the spectrum, be replacing or providing a service for companies that can't even afford these sorts of people that are in these jobs, and obviously in larger firms that's not going to be the case. But I do think as you get into this, you're going to need to challenge yourselves to protect some focus, at least in the initial stage of what you're out to accomplish, because there's a lot of great opportunity here.
We're going to take a short 10-minute break, and we're going to restart promptly at 2:15.